So, thanks for letting me interview you. What year were you born and what city?
I was born in July the 8th, 1952, and I was born in Kendallville, Indiana.
And when you were a child and growing up, do you have any stories about ways in which you interacted with the environment, such as with like pesticides or fuel emissions?
I grew up in Leato from when I was real young, and the fire department would come around about once every week or 2 weeks and spray DDT, and a bunch of us with our bicycles would get on our bicycles and chase the fogger around the town and just ride in the smoke until they were finished spraying. And that would go on for maybe 45 minutes.
At the time, did you guys think that DDT was dangerous or would harm your health?
No, really, you never thought of it. It really didn't smell that bad. So it was kind of crazy now that you know, but yeah, we didn't know at that time. Nothing was ever out.
Do you know of any farmers during that time who used maybe DDT or other herbicides or pesticides on their crops?
I don't think they used any DDT, but I did work for my uncle sometimes and area farmers that I know use pesticides and herbicides on their fields for bugs and weeds. And they used liquid, and we handled that liquid without gloves, and when you sprayed it, we didn't use masks or anything. So yeah, you breathed that in and had it on your hands and never washed your hands until maybe you were finished the rest of the day spraying your fields.
Do you know of any farmers when you were growing up who maybe they developed lung cancer or some other form of cancer?
My uncle died of liver cancer at a fairly young age. He was in his 50s, I think, when he passed away. And I don't know for a fact that it was, but that's some of the side effects of it, handling those pesticides and herbicides. A friend of mine, his dad was another farmer that I also helped him. He died in his early 60s of liver cancer also. So I think looking back, it probably was the handling of those over the years that had the effect on them.
And at that time, did people really realize the harmful side effects
No,
that
they
those
didn't.
chemicals had?
They, as far as I know, they didn't. I didn't know any of it, and I don't think they did or thought it was that bad. If they knew anything about it, that they took the precautions like we do now with it.
And what was the water and air quality like when you were younger?
You would hear on the news places like LA and stuff, the air quality in the big cities and stuff was really bad, but locally you didn't hear that much about it.
What about the factories? Did they release a lot of smog or
Oh yes,
pollution into the air?
I can remember going up to Chicago Cubs ball games with my parents and going through Gary, Indiana, when the steel factories and stuff were going, and just smokestack after smokestack blowing stuff into the air.
What about the water quality?
The water quality was not probably good. I didn't realize that till later. You didn't think about that either, but my grandparents grew up on a small lake, and everybody's septic system drained into that lake, and we would swim in it not more than 50 feet where sewage had dumped into these lakes. So the water quality really, I didn't know it, but it wasn't good.
So at the time, it just seemed normal to swim in
Well,
dirty
yeah,
water?
Well, it was clear other than where it drained directly into the lake, but I can remember fishing within 10, 15 feet of where that drained in, and I don't know, I don't know that I ever ate the fish from right there, just to catch them, but I'm certain people did because you didn't know exactly where everybody's septic system drained into the lake.
Do you know of anyone that got sick from swimming in those dirty waters?
I don't know, I was littler, so I don't remember if anybody did, but I was always like catching frogs and snakes and little bitty tiny fish, and I'd have my hands in those areas and not think anything about it just because you didn't realize what it was.
Yeah, that's
So I'm,
scary
I'm
to think
certain,
about.
well, it really is to think that you did those things and, and now that you learn about it, that, boy, it sheds a different light.
Yeah. What's something that you would want to say to your younger self about sustainability or conservation?
I am more into conservation now in my ideas than I was back then.
When you were a child growing up, was recycling very common?
No, recycling really wasn't a common thing at all back then. It wasn't until probably, even up until now out in the country, you don't recycle stuff. You just put it all in one bin and the trash people pick it up and dump it. Only in the cities do they recycle.
So there wasn't like media coverage saying that people should try to
No.
find other ways to get rid of their waste?
No, it wasn't until I really moved to town that I really started recycling.
Because I know today recycling is a really big thing that they try to push. So
Yeah,
it's interesting to think that back then it was
Yeah.
kind of unheard of.
yeah, it really was.
Do you remember how you celebrated the very first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970?
Oh boy, I was just out of high school then, and I truthfully cannot say I celebrated it at all. I didn't even think about it back then. I was just out of school. I started into trade school to be a auto mechanic.
What differences do you see between like the significance that individuals might put on Earth Day today?
Me, myself, I can't say that I celebrate Earth Day at all, but I am more conscious of everything that surrounds Earth Day. You are more aware of your environment and how to take care of it than because of the coverage and everything.
Comparing your childhood to today, have you noticed a difference in the types of like cleaners or chemicals you might use around your house?
I never really looked at the ingredients, so I can't really tell you whether there's a big difference. I'm certain there is because of the government tightening up on these industries and businesses and that.
So what does being environmentally friendly mean to you today?
Yeah, to me, it means you better take care of what we have on this earth because it comes back to you.
If you're comparing maybe something from when you were growing up to now, just like similarities and differences, or maybe one major example that sticks out to you?
We have tightened the laws down on the emissions put out of factories and everything else. And I just say that now because you don't see the billowing smoke coming out of them like you used to. Being in the automotive industry too, I mean, there was the asbestos thing, and now all your brake pads and clutches and everything are made out of other components, so we don't use asbestos anymore.
When you were younger in the automobile industry, did they use that?
They
a lot?
used that up. I can remember, I was a mechanic up through 1978, from 70 to 78, and as far as everything up to that had asbestos on the clutches and the brake pad. I think the laws were around 1990 before they started changing on that, so my whole time through 78 would have had asbestos in it. And you breathed it in because most people didn't take precautions, and if they did, they used parts cleaners to wet the asbestos down on the backing plates and stuff like that, but most people didn't wear rubber gloves, so all that parts cleaner was on their hands
Yeah.
and soaked in that way also, so you were still subjected. It was just you didn't breathe asbestos in, but you soaked all those cleaners into your hand, which went into your body. But there was a lot of times we had vehicles running and never hooked those up and were subjected to the carbon monoxide
That's crazy.
emissions and stuff, yeah.
And no one thought anything of it.
Well, no, we would use the air hose and blow the dust off the backing and everything, and I mean, it would just billow out. And you didn't think anything about asbestos being bad at that point.
So at the time, you didn't think
No,
much of it.
you didn't.
But today, looking back,
Oh, yeah.
you realize.
Oh, yeah, anymore, if I do my own brakes at home or whatever, I don't use an air hose and blow them off and stuff like that, and I wear rubber gloves anytime I'm around pesticides or herbicides that we still use some on your yards and stuff to kill weeds and stuff.
Do you wear like a mask or gloves when you do that at all?
I do wear the gloves. I have worn a mask too. I usually use a drop spreader rather than a broadcasting spreader that throws it into the air and stuff more.
Going back again, when the pesticides and herbicides were being sprayed, there was a decline in some animal populations, such as like a bald eagle or other things. Do you remember that being talked about in the news, or how you or others felt about it at the time?
It didn't really hit me until after the 70s into the 80s or so, before I can remember, because I didn't watch a lot of TV,
Yeah.
that they talked about that and stuff. I know a lady here not too long ago that I worked with, she counted bats over in Hawaii because we're more aware of all the things that harm those. And she did because of wind turbines and stuff being put up. How it affects the bat population.
So then that's kind of looking at sustainability. I think today, looking back, we can realize how there was a lot of like toxic fumes, or the air or water wasn't clean. So, but one final note, in regards to food, was the term organic or pesticide-free very common back when you were a child?
Never heard of organic or pesticide-free. Never.
So it's really something that's gained attention in these past years.
Yeah, it just in probably the last 10, 15 years or so that stuff is, people have heard more about it. And back then you had maybe 3 TV channels. Now you have however many you can think of.
Yeah.
There's always something on about the environment and the side effects of everything we're still doing.
I would agree. Well, thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.